Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? Yeah, let's talk about Vietnam, man. So a lot of times when I'm talking about foreign currencies, you know, people just think there's this wand you pull out your butt, right? And then sprinkle some pixie dust all over everything, and then presto, you get an RV. It doesn't work that way. There are a lot of factors that contribute to the value of a currency. And so if you look at all these different factors, it gives you at least an idea of what is going on with that currency and whether or not it's going to decrease or increase in value. If you look at what's going on in Vietnam, they are much further along than Iraq is. If you go back just even like a mere 2 years ago, it almost seemed like Iraq was starting all over from scratch. There's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be done. There's a lot of political issues. There's a lot of uprisings. There's just a lot of turmoil in that country. Vietnam, on the other hand, has a very strong economy. There's not a lot of protests and not a lot of turmoil going on over there. The other big issue that we have with Vietnam is they will manipulate their currency. And because the United States does a lot of cheap labor work over there, they don't tend to rock the boat too much. Most presidents let them get away with it. Trump, on the other hand, put him on the currency manipulation watch list. And he was the only one that was willing to do something about Vietnam manipulating their currency. But now that Trump's not there, they went right back to doing what they do all the time. As a matter of fact, this most current report on currencies that we watch, Vietnam's been on the watch list now for quite some time. For some strange reason, they got removed off the currency manipulation list. Yeah, go figure. There's no reason to remove it. And you can't trust any of the data that comes out of this administration. I'm talking about the Biden administration. They tend to lie about everything. So recently, over the last couple of months, a couple of reports came out that give you an idea of what's going on over there in Vietnam. And this helps out big time when trying to decide whether or not anything positive is going to happen with the Vietnam dong. Before we get started, if you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you think about buying gold and silver, or any other precious metals for that matter, head on over to our friends at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. When you purchase over there at Money Metals Exchange, you will now be automatically entered into a chance to get free giveaways. This month, you'll be automatically registered to be one of 3 people who will receive 10 ounces. That's 10 silver eagles each. So head on over to Money Metals, make your purchase, and automatically enter to win. For those of you who are unaware, I do have my own webpage. I can be found at Pimpy's News Network. Over here, I do post videos that I can't post on YouTube without getting in trouble. I also have my own Facebook group called Pimpy's Investment Chat. Over here, we do talk about gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, as well as foreign currency investments. So come on over here and join us. It's free to do so. I can also be found over here on Twitter, MeWe, YouTube, Odyssey, and now I'm on Rumble. For whatever reasons, my videos are not showing up on my channel yet, but I can be found just by going to the search button and typing in Pimpy's Investment Chat. And my videos will pop up for you to check out. If I get kicked off YouTube or I get suspended on YouTube, you can find me on any other one of these social media platforms. I will say this, Vietnam does have one of the better looking currencies out there. I love their colors. So what we're looking for whenever we talk about the value of a currency is foreign direct investment, which is a big thing. These are people who are willing to invest in your country or to bring business there, you know, whether it's manufacturing or whatever. These people will invest money or open up companies there in Vietnam, mostly because the labor is cheap. But foreign investors will not come to your country if there is uprisings or there's terrorists there, or they don't feel like their money is going to be protected. That's one of those indicators that you use to weigh things out. Are foreign investors willing to come into your country and start businesses? Infrastructure is the other thing. They want to look around and make sure that they have easy access to get to and from the warehouses or into ports where they can ship things back and forth. Corruption within the government. We know that Vietnam's government is corrupt, but they're not so corrupt that they're out of whack. They are pretty good about how they handle foreign investors. So these are just a few of the things that you need to look for. You can see here, this report just came out. Vietnam adds $3.4 billion in FDI in April. So the Vietnam's Ministry of Planning and Investment has released the April 2023 report on foreign direct investment. Here's how Vietnam's FDI sector is faring. So registered capital from foreign direct investment in Vietnam was just over 3.4 billion in April, the highest monthly increase this year. This brings Vietnam's total of FDI in 2023 up to $8.88 billion. This means that foreign investors feel like their investments are going to be secure. If they start a business there's not a lot of red tape. That's the other issue. And most likely because the labor is cheap. That's another major plus. There's no uprising, so things over there seem very stable. Vietnam also recorded 228 new FDI projects spread across 50 countries, bringing the total number of new projects for the year to 750. 750 new investment projects. So foreigners have started 750 new projects over there in Vietnam. Yeah, that's really good, actually. So in April, where did Vietnam FDI come from and where did it go? So these are your biggest investors that started up over there in Vietnam. So Japan led foreign direct investments in Vietnam in April with 22 new projects and an additional 1.6 billion. This could be attributed to the purchase of Vietnam's VP Bank by Japan's Sumitomo Mitsui Financial Group. Japan was followed by Singapore with $509 million added and the US with an additional $217 million. So those are the countries that have invested the most. You can see the top 3 for the month of April right here. So these indicators are very good. If foreign investors come into your country, that means they're going to supply the country with more jobs. The more people will be working, less people on government aid, more people paying taxes. You know how it works. So Vietnam so far is looking really good. What about the labor market? Labor market continues to recover in quarter 1 of 2023. So this is Vietnam's General Office of Statistics. This is their report for labor and employment. Vietnam's labor market experienced positive growth in the first quarter of this year, as reported by Vietnam's General Office of Statistics, with an increase in the labor force and employment rates, along with a decrease in unemployment and underemployment rates. Wages also showed improvement. These trends indicate a favorable climate for attracting foreign investments, with a large labor pool to support economic growth. Here are the main highlights from the GSO report on labor and employment. So it said in the first quarter of 2023, Vietnam's labor force increased by 88,700 people. So 88,700 people have entered into the workforce. This is good. To reach a total of 52.2 million available workers, 1 million more people available to work than a year earlier. Scroll down here just a little bit. This is also reflective of the numbers of rural and urban workers. In quarter 1 of this year, the urban labor force jumped by 121,000 workers, whereas the countryside, the workforce dropped by 32,300. This is in line with an ongoing shift in Vietnam from an economy with agriculture at its heart to one where manufacturing takes a central role. So this is what I was talking about. Whenever there's any kind of economic crisis, if it gets really bad, especially if you start talking about recession or depression, one of the things that helps a country out big time is the amount of manufacturing that's being done there. Because if you're making things that other countries need and can't make themselves, well, then you're sitting pretty good and you're more likely to recover quicker than any other country. Labor quality remains steady. The number of trained workers with degrees or certificates was 26.4% in the first quarter. This was unchanged from the fourth quarter of 2022. However, it was a slight increase over quarter 1 in 2022. Now here's where things get a little interesting. One of the reasons why the labor over in Vietnam is cheap, besides the fact that they manipulate the currency, is because of lack of education in the employees and skilled workers. So, they don't demand a lot of money over there, but that's starting to shift. It's starting to change. You can see right here, it says, this is one of the more important figures. Vietnam has long maintained that advancing into high-tech industry is the next natural progression in its development, which in turn will necessitate a substantial supply of skilled workers. This is good. This is what foreign investors are looking for. It says, notably in the Provincial Competitive Index in 2022, which was released last week, finding managers and supervisors was flagged as being much more difficult than hiring low-skilled labor. See? So they're used to hiring a lot of low-skilled labor and not able to find a lot of managers with the education or the work knowledge. Education will be the key to changing the reality, and these latest figures suggest that it is forthcoming, although showing just incremental growth. But it is changing. Vietnam's service sector in the quarter of 2022, their first quarter that is, employed 39% of Vietnam's workers, or almost 20 million people. That's freaking huge, man. That's really huge. So they rely on a lot of tourism or else that country gets screwed. This was followed by the industry and construction sectors, which covered 33.9% of the workers, the equivalent of 17.3 million people. Finally, agriculture, forestry, and fishery accounted for the last 27.1%, or 13.8 million people. And this was a decrease of 600,000 people over quarter four. Goes on to say that again, this highlights the shift from farming, fishing, and forestry in rural areas towards higher paying manufacturing jobs or service sector roles. The GSO report points out that the number of Vietnamese employed in the service sector and in industry and construction increased by 38,100 and 360,900 people, respectively, during the fourth quarter of 2022. So what you're hearing is that people are moving from labor jobs, working in the farm, the forestry, and the fishery, into higher skilled jobs so they can get more pay. Wages are rising. There you go right there. The average monthly income of employees increased compared to the previous quarter and compared to quarter one of 2022. Across the board, the average monthly wage was 7 million Vietnam Dong, or $298 per month. Yikes, man, that's how much they make per month. That's terrible, man. So they're over there, they're used to this. Their cost of living, I would imagine, is much, much cheaper, because $298 per month, good Lord, man, I make that almost in 3 hours. I would go crazy. This includes an increase of 197,000 Vietnam Dong, $8.39 over the fourth quarter 2022. So they are seeing an increase. They don't seem like a lot to us, but it might be a lot to the Vietnamese people. This increase, however, was not applied equally. The service sector, for example, saw wages rise from 766,000 Vietnam Dong, or $32.63. So the wages of the service sector rose by $32.63, I'm going to guess, per month. This puts the average wage of the service sector employee at 8.3 million Vietnam Dong, which is $353.42 per month. In contrast, where agriculture, fishery, and forestry, the GSO found that the average wage to be just 4.1 million, including an increase of 345,000 Vietnam Dong of $14.69. Less than half of the service sector employees' average wage increase. That's why you're seeing such a huge shift. Service sectors are making more than twice as much as people who work in the fisheries, agriculture, and the forestries. Further, industry and construction came in right in the middle. Workers in these fields earned an average of 7.9 million Vietnam Dong, which is about $336 a month. And they saw an increase of $27.89 per month. So now they're going to talk about the workforce, which is one of those things you take in consideration. For foreign firms, Vietnam's relatively young, abundant, and low-cost workforce has made it an attractive destination for a broad range of tasks, and the manufacturing sector in particular. Of course, this is what I was talking about. That's why China took over most all of manufacturing for our country here. It's because the labor workforce was cheap, and then they turn around and ship them back to the United States and then gouge us for huge profits. So a younger group of workers is coming into the workforce. This looks set to continue for some time, but investors should bear in mind that wages in the countries are rising, and this is changing the dynamics of the workforce. Moreover, in the long run, as more Vietnamese purchase higher education and upscaling opportunities, the talent base will change in character. In the near term, however, recruiting at the top will remain challenging, and on-the-job training is advised to achieve better staff retention. Overall, Vietnam is more than just lower-cost labor, but that's one of the things that attracts investors into Vietnam. Not to mention, they have some really huge ports over there. Incentives for establishing a business in the Southeast Asian nation are abundant. Infrastructure is improving, as is the ease of doing business. Because Vietnam used to be really difficult to crack that egg, to get into Vietnam and do business. They were really closed off to a lot of outsiders, but that is changing. They're allowing outside investors to come in there, which is really helping the economy over in Vietnam. So as you can see, the outlook for Vietnam is looking really good. Over the last 30 years, the infrastructure in Vietnam, there's a huge difference between what it used to be and where it is now, especially in the hospitality sector, in the ports and manufacturing. It's looking very attractive to a lot of foreign investors. So the workforce overall, it looks like they're being replenished with a wave of young people, and that should continue for quite some time. They're coming in, they're more skilled and they're more educated. They'll demand higher wages. So it looks really good for Vietnam right about now. So just hang tight. They're much, much further along than the Iraqi dinar is, that's for sure. Anyways, that's it. I look forward to your comments, and I will catch you later. I'm out.